Good morning, and students, and welcome to the presentation for the subject of Teaching and Mentoring Assessment A. My name is Thaddeus Shikokuma, and I will take you through this presentation this morning. First of all, before we start with the presentation, I would like to bring to your attention the action verbs. The action verbs are the words that are utilized in order to construct sentences. Actually, not sentences, but to construct questions that are asked in exam or in an assignment. So therefore, it's quite necessary for us to look at the verbs, and you should master and understand the verbs. Once you understand the verbs, you are not going to struggle with the questions, because the verbs are guiding you. They are giving you a way that this is the way to go, and this is how you should go about it. So therefore, we can look at the verbs one by one. Analyze. If the question is asking you to analyze, what are you expected to do? You should examine information in detail. Calculate. You give a numerical answer from given figures. While if you are asked to comment what you are doing, you discuss briefly by giving positive and negative points on a certain phenomenon. Compare. You must be able to draw conclusion about the similarities and differences. What you are basically doing, if you are comparing, you are giving the similarities as well as the differences. So very important. And then contrast. When you are contrasting, you are basically looking only for similarities. While when the question is asked you to criticize, so you give reasonable judgment after weighing facts. Actually, you weigh in the facts carefully first before you give reasonable judgment. Deduce. Use the information provided to reach to the conclusion. While define, you give precise, brief meaning and features. And when we are talking about these words or the verb, especially the common one, define. This is a common verb that we make use of. There's no way somebody will set up a question paper or an assignment and it does not have that word. So you must master. But I'm not saying the rest are not important. They are important, but this one, most of the time, it's there. Ladies and gentlemen, you must also be able to understand what does it mean or what is required from you. If you see the word demonstrate, it means that you show by examples. Describe. What are you doing? You provide detailed features for and against. While determine, use provided information in order to work out the answer. There should also be words like distinguish. If you are required to distinguish what you are doing, you are actually given two phenomena, and you must give the differences of those two phenomena that you are given. So that's why distinguish comes in. Estimate. You give the impact of something. Evaluate. You determine the value of something as per set criteria. So if the question requires you to evaluate it, this is also one of the highest verb used in the Bloom taxonomy. So you must be able to give something tangible and detailed. Explain. If you are required to explain, it's also one of the common words or common verbs that you utilize in order to construct a question. So you must be able to describe by indicating relationships between things. And find, when the question asks you to find, you should, it's saying that calculate, measure, or determine. While when you are asked to identify, it's quite simple because it's straightforward. What you are doing is recognize and name. Illustrate. You must be able to describe with examples, of course. Interpret. If you are interpreting the question asks you to interpret, you must be able to describe something, explain the meaning of graphical information. While examine, you identify detailed features of something. Detailed is in more details. List. You must be able to present a list of facts, names, objects. It's simply listing. You don't have to give details here because you are just giving. You are just naming. You are just listing. Outline. You give an overview and indicate the main features. While summarize, you focus on the main ideas and you don't really have to give examples. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to go into details of the presentation. Don't be limited to what is here, but you can always explore more information and then get more information that you can utilize, not only to pass examination and graduate from IOL, but for general knowledge that you can utilize. Let's say you are appointed as a principal, you are appointed as a head of department, you are appointed as an inspector or director or chief education officer, whatever you name it. So you already possess that knowledge and utilize it, because not only for you to pass, but utilize. The purpose is mostly for you to know how to manage, for example, and utilize that management skills or the information that you have required, you have acquired when you are studying at IOL, that you can utilize it in your day-to-day running of the office that is that you are given. So therefore, let's look at the content in detail. Explain. Go back again to the action verb. Explain the purpose of assessment and evaluation. This is a must. It's a must for you to understand this as a teacher, because on daily basis you deal with assessment. You assess learners. It can be formal or informal assessment. It can be planned as assessment, that okay, that's is what I'm going to assess, so maybe it comes natural. So therefore you must know the purpose of assessment and evaluation. Why do we assess as teachers? Why do we evaluate as teachers? So you must be able to explain this now in your exam. Explain mentorship in regard to intern teachers. So sometimes we have these teachers that come to do teaching practice at our schools, and they're allocated to us. So you are allocated this student in order to do mentor. You have to carry out mentorship. You are mentoring the teacher to make sure that the teacher is prepared. That's why the university or the college has sent that student to, they are sent in the field to make sure that they get that exposure. But if the person is allocated to you, then you must make sure that you prepare this individual to make sure that the person is ready to go in the field and become an effective teacher. So here it says explain the mentorship in regard to intern teachers, and the intern teachers are the teachers that are doing teaching practice at your school. You must be able to discuss what holistic school education should be about. If you are talking about holistic education, what should it entail? So it's very, very important. But remember what you are doing here. You are discussing. Outline different mentoring roles. We have a lot of them. So you must be able to give or to outline the mentoring roles. The good thing is, I know this book of assessment and mentoring, teaching and assessment mentoring, it's quite detailed. So, and it's a little bit thick. You need time to sit and go through and make sure that you look at all these aspects and understand them. Don't just memorize. You should understand them so that you can utilize them also once you are in the field, or you are already in the field. Distinguish between assessment and evaluation. If you remember, we spoke about assessment and evaluation already, but here it said distinguish. So you must be able to give the differences between the two, because these are two phenomena that are given before you: assessment and evaluation. What does each entails? Because the other one you are just defining, but here now you need to distinguish. Okay, evaluation contains of this, or it has this, and assessment has this. So what are the differences? Explain why is it important that teachers do effective lesson planning. I know most of the teachers do not like this. I remember when I was a teacher as well. When I was head of department, I was really struggling with some of my teachers. They don't want to do the planning. So, but it's very, very important for somebody to plan the lesson. You know, things will be logic. Even though you are not going to be fixed on what you have planned, when you are teaching, things are logic, because you know, okay, if you have planned, you know what to tackle first, introduction, okay, the body of the lesson, what before you reach to the conclusion. But if sometimes you don't plan, it's gonna be hard, and you might even, you know, make mistakes. You will end up going to the conclusion while the introduction is not done. But if you have planned, you know what we are talking about. Things are going to be logically. So you must be able to explain why it is important that teachers do effective, not just lesson planning, but we are talking about effective lesson planning. You must be able to analyze the benefits of mentoring and coaching. What are the benefits? Who is benefiting in a way when it comes to mentoring and coaching? Because that's necessary, especially the new teachers. They need to be mentored, they need to be coached. But what are the benefits in a way? If the mentoring sessions have gone quite well, then chances are the teachers that are coached or that are mentored are likely to be effective in their teaching profession. You must be able to outline the benefits of sandwich feedback technique. There is a technique that's called sandwich feedback. What are the benefits? They are outlined in your study guide. So remember what you are doing here. You are outlining only. You are only outlining. The next one is list. You are only listing. You don't have to explain. You don't have to describe. But you list the characteristics of effective mentors. For a mentor to be called effective, the mentor must have certain characteristics that somebody is looking at. So you must be able to outline, or you must be able to list what are these characteristics. Define continuous assessment. We do that, continuous assessment. If you are a teacher, there's no way you won't, even if I wake you up and I say, okay, define what is continuous assessment, then you'll be able to define it, because it's what you do. It's continuous assessment that you carry out on daily basis in your classroom. You must also be able to differentiate, that's a vital, the action verb, between formal and informal continuous assessment. Continuous assessment can be formal or informal. What are the characteristics of formal and what are the characteristics for informal continuous assessment? What makes them different? The two, they are not the same. If you're talking about formal, we are talking about certain different continuous assessment. If you're talking about informal, we are talking about, you know, this is practical. I like it because it's practical. It's what you do, and we are being asked what do you do. You know already. If you are doing something on daily basis, there's no way you can fail at. Name integral part of critical thinking, and this is what we should instill in our learners. Critical thinking. Why critical thinking? Why is it important? What is it? If you're talking about critical thinking, you should understand it in that aspect, in that area. Based on the contemporary society, outline characteristics that shape society. Contemporary society. What are the characteristics that shape our society? There must be certain characteristics in a contemporary world, in a contemporary society. There should be characteristics that can shape the society. What are those characteristics? You should also be able to list practical strategies that can help mentees build a relationship with their mentors. because the person who's being mentored is called a mentee, while the person that's doing the action, doing the work, is a mentor. What are then the practical strategies that can help the two individuals in order to build a relationship? So there should be a relationship, a good one for that matter, between a mentee and a mentor. So what are the practical strategies? Because what is important here is the practical strategies that can help the mentee and the mentor to build that relationship between them. You must also be able to outline tips a mentor should take into consideration when visiting a mentee for the first time. You know, what we need here are the tips that a mentor should have. Ladies and gentlemen, we are playing a major role here when it comes to mentoring. So please, you should understand that aspect of mentoring to that extent that you'll be able to handle any question that comes your way when it comes to mentorship. Explain how mentee can be criticized positively. You know, you are a mentor, and then the mentee needs guidance, needs coaching, but also can be criticized if things are not going the way they were supposed to be. But that has to be done in a positive way. How? You should also be able to name qualities of an effective teacher. If we are saying a teacher is effective, there should be certain qualities that are connected to or that are associated with that particular teacher. What are those qualities? As a teacher, you should also be able to outline qualities of a mentor. What are the qualities of a mentor apart from the qualities of an effective teacher? A mentor should also have certain qualities. What are they? Discuss steps for improving the listening skills of a mentee. You know, that's needed, listening skills, because between a mentor and a mentee, there should always be that, you know, communication. So there is a need to improve the listening skills of a mentee. And then we have that scholar by the name Knowles. Knowles has characteristics that he has developed for adult learner. What are those? We are only talking about Knowles, the name of a scholar, the name of a philosopher. It's Knowles, but he came up with certain characteristics of adult learners. What are those characteristics? We must be able to name them. Analyze, that's one of the action verbs. Analyze the ways of achieving the best results when discussing feedback on observation techniques with a mentee. What are those ways? You must be able to analyze. But remember, look at the verb or the action verb. Analyze is one of the highest verb in Bloom taxonomy's level. So you must be able to know what is expected from you. So, but what we are talking about here is for you to analyze ways of achieving the best result when discussing feedback, and because there should be feedback to be discussed between the mentee and the mentor. Okay. Outline the facts to consider, or that can be considered when addressing a person of another culture. It's quite vital for somebody to understand and appreciate other people's cultures, so that if you understand, then you're not going to make mistakes. You will know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. So this is something that you need to take into consideration. So you must be able to outline the facts that can be taken into consideration when you're addressing somebody from a different culture. And as a teacher, you are working in a multicultural society yourself. Learners in your classrooms are from different backgrounds. Especially, it is very common in towns and cities where you find people from different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, race, tribe, fixed in one classrooms. So not only that you should have that understanding as a teacher, but the learners also, they should be taught this fact. You must be able to state questions that you should ask yourself as a teacher before agreeing to be a mentor. If you are appointed as a mentor by your school principal, your school authority, you should ask yourself some questions before you say, yes, let me be a mentor of this mentee, of this young teacher that has just joined us at school. Compare the features of mentoring and coaching. The whole issue here is revolving around mentorship. So please understand it inside out. So here you are making now comparisons. You are trying to get the differences and similarities of mentoring and coaching, because mentoring is not the same thing as coaching. So there is a difference. So now you are making comparisons. You are trying to find what are the similarities and what are the differences when it comes to mentoring and coaching. Explain how to maintain teaching as a passion. I don't want to hear that you are simply a teacher because you are looking for a job. It should come from the heart. It should come from the heart. So therefore you must be able to explain how to maintain teaching as a passion, because teaching should be a passion, not only job opportunity, but it's a passion because you have decided to become a teacher because of what is you have, the love that you have for the kids, the love that you have for your community, the love that you have for giving knowledge. Explain the criteria for meeting the requirements of a good assessment. An assessment to be called good and quality, it should have met some requirements. What are the criteria for meeting the requirements of good assessment? Because when you are doing assessment, even now, if I set up a test, or I set up an exam paper, or set up an assignment, there should be certain criteria that I am looking at for me to make sure that what I am coming up with is good, that can be utilized. It's good assessment. What are the criteria and requirements? Ladies and gentlemen, you must be able to discuss the value of a mentor. A mentor should have certain values. What are the values of a mentor? So if you look in your study guide, you'll be able to see these values. But remember, you are just not mentioning them. It says discuss. You have to discuss. Explain the features of a supportive or a democratic supportive democratic style. Being a principal, being head of department, you should have certain style of leading your people. But the most recommended one is democracy, even though it has its ups and downs. But here what we are talking about is you must be able to explain the features. What is important here is features of supportive or democratic style. Outline the points of long working hours by novice teachers. Being a teacher, you are a teacher for 24/7. You are not just a teacher in that particular lesson and then you leave it there. Even when you go home, you are a teacher. And sometimes, like exam time, you have due dates that are set. And new teachers might not understand this because they believe I wake up at 7, go to school at 8, 1 o'clock I'm done, I can go home, and then I forget about being a teacher because I'm home. That's not the way. That's why I spoke about passion. You should have passion. So now there should be points of long working hours by novice teacher. So you must be able to outline this, because you might work long working hours, not what you expected, not what you thought. Describe how mentors could use LEAP model. It's a certain model, LEAP, a model when mentoring a group at school. So what should come out here is the description of how to use this type of model when it comes to mentoring a group at school. Clarify the following concept in relation to supporting of a mentee. Self-directed. These are the concepts that you should give clarification on. Self-directed, positive feedback, stretch, solution focus, and structure. So these are the concepts that you should clarify. Define the term constructive criticism. If you are talking about constructive criticism, what is it? You are criticizing in a positive way that's going to build, not to destroy. So you should be able to give the definition here. Discuss how to build a rapport with a mentee, because you know the purpose when you are a mentor, the purpose of giving you this, allocating you this mentee, is for you to have that close relationship. You should build that relationship between you and the mentee, that not when you are approaching or when you are coming, not to create that picture that, oh, there comes my mentor, I'm in trouble. But you are working partners. You are trying to build that relationship. You are trying to coach that person, to make sure that the person is prepared, to make sure that the person is ready. So now, how to build that? You must be able to establish it in black and white. You must be able to write that. You must be, but remember, you are discussing. Explain the barriers to active listening. What are the barriers that can hinder active listening? You must be able to explain those barriers. Analyze guidelines for creating mentee portfolios. Guidelines, what is important here is the analysis of guidelines. Evaluate aims and benefits of mentoring and coaching. The most important aspect here is evaluation of aims and benefits. So these questions, evaluate, analyze, are the highest level of questions in Bloom taxonomy. So you have to make sure that you have dealt with these questions at a highest level, not like when you are explaining or defining or naming, but you are doing the analysis, you are doing the evaluation. So there must be a certain level of approaching this question. So it must be a certain way of dealing with these questions at an advanced stage. Ladies and gentlemen, we came to the end of this presentation. What I would like to tell you is that you need to prepare thoroughly. Don't just confine yourself to your study guide, but you can expand this knowledge. Explore the internet. Read more books. There are prescribed books that are indicated in your study guide that you need to approach in order to expand that knowledge and be able to perform quite well in the examination, and also be able to utilize the knowledge and skills that you have acquired in your teaching career. You need to grow. You cannot be a teacher forever. You want to become head of department, you want to become a principal, you want to become an inspector, a director, anyone else, a minister perhaps. So please, you should have an understanding of the verbs, the action verbs. Every time when you are revising, you go back. If it says describe, go back to the definition of the word describe or the verb describe. Then, okay, you'll be able to see what is that you are expected to do. And utilize the experience that you have acquired so far if you are a teacher, or the experience that you have acquired so far as a student, because you have exposed yourself to a lot of reading. Discuss, advise the students to sit together when you are preparing for exam. Discuss with your colleagues and what you might not know, your colleague might know, and vice versa. Do not leave the questions unattended. Please, no. Try to attempt all the questions. Don't leave any question unattended. So please consult some other sources for skills and knowledge expansion. And I would like to say best of luck. You can call me whenever you are stuck. My mobiles 0811480977 or 0812531801. You can also drop me an email at t_shikukuma@yahoo.co.uk. Best of luck and thank you very much for your attentive attention.